Hi everyone, and welcome to my summer workshop, Bask in the Slow, which is part of a series of seasonal workshops that are designed to synchronize us with the natural world, essentially to invite in more flow into our work and our life, which I'll explain a bit more in a bit. So, whether you're a woman who identifies as a business owner, self employed, freelancer, creative, whoever you identify with, the summer workshop focuses on how you can use the lull and slow down of the summer as a strategy to allow more flow into your life and work. So, before I get into the details of the workshop, I wanted to introduce to you this concept that I have been very inspired by and continue to build upon, which is seasonal syncing. So essentially, it was born out of my own experiences of having total ebbs and flows of energy, creativity, motivation, determination, whatever it is that you need in order to run your own practice. And I realized that being switched on all of the time was feeding into this loop of fear and depletion. It was the opposite of regenerative, which is exactly what you need in order to create a sustainable business. There's no point in functioning from an empty cup, is there? So I personally felt like I had to be constantly doing work to prove to myself and potentially to others that I was truly committed to whatever it is that I was birthing into the world, until I realized that that kind of working really left me functioning from empty, and that essentially I was working in the world from a very patriarchal model of go, 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 a linear trajectory towards success. And I kind of got myself to believe that if I wasn't hustling and if I wasn't pushing myself, then perhaps I'm failing or I'm not really cut out for any of this, even though in my heart of hearts, I knew that this is exactly what I want to be doing, birthing my own ideas into the world. The conflict, however, was that when I looked around me, specifically towards the natural world, which I felt that I was a part of and am a part of, I realized that everything moves in cycles. Everything is constantly changing. So I began to ask myself, why is it that when it comes to me and my business, that I'm putting these expectations on myself and I feel like I'm expected from the world to work at a constant pace of go, 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 and to work from a space of hustle. Now, the truth is, and this is what I really believe and kind of really embody, is that we're not separate from the natural world. So essentially, then we too move and function in cycles. And as women, particularly, we're very attuned to this because of our monthly cycles and our monthly bleeds. We always show up from that cyclical point of view rather than that linear point of view. When we're trying to show up from that linear point of view, we're out of sync, we're out of alignment. And so this is when I turned to the seasons. Essentially, I saw the seasons as a kind of early entry point to bring us in alignment with the natural world. They kind of show us this concept of cycles and this concept of constantly changing, right? As summer turns into autumn and the leaves begin to fall and we start to shed, as autumn moves into to winter and we get a cold layer over our being, And as things move into hibernation, the colder it gets. As winter moves into spring, and after hibernation, things start to blossom, we feel that energy shifts, right? And so I saw seasons as a perfect entry point into this concept of aligning with the seasons, because we see the changes before our very eyes. And so I thought, how can I synchronize myself and my business with the seasons as a way to embrace the ever-changing energies within me, rather than kind of resist them and fall into this trap of resistance? You know, how many times have you, well, this has happened to me for sure, on those days where I tell myself, okay, today I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm going to be super productive. I'm going to get creative. And then I wake up and I feel super unproductive and I feel super uninspired. And when I sit down to try to create as though I can switch it on and off, I begin to resist, because I am not showing up from that space of creativity or inspiration. And the more that I try to push through that, the more counterproductive it becomes. And I suddenly fall into this loop of resistance. And the more I try to push, the longer it gets me to get to that space that I'm telling myself I should be, rather than surrendering to the fact that I'm not feeling inspired, rather than surrendering to the fact that I'm just not feeling up for that full 100% productivity today, right? So what does synchronizing your business and essentially your life with the seasons look like? This is what I kind of began to unlock when I started doing this. I unlocked access to creative flow, because in harmonizing with the natural cycles, we're creating space to move with more ease, and we open up a state of flow that is regenerative rather than depleting. Going back to that concept that I just explained of, instead of forcing something to be, I surrender. And in surrendering, we're opening up more flow. I optimized on productivity. Why? Because when we begin to recognize that there is a time to deepen roots and strengthen systems, a time to build and bloom ideas, a time to maintain and streamline, and a time to harvest and reflect, we're honoring those phases, and productivity becomes intentional and efficient. It's not driven by constant output, which leads us to burnout very fast, but instead it's guided by healthy, natural rhythms. Another thing I unlocked was this concept of I am building to last. So when growth is driven by overexertion and urgency, we often burn out before we've had the chance to truly tend to whatever it is that we're building and birthing into the world. Like a garden, growth cannot be rushed, while the right nutrients, given at the right time, allow things to flourish sustainably. When we grow in season, we create businesses that are resilient, well-rooted, and built to last. So growth doesn't come from constant effort and pushing through. It comes from tending to what's needed when it is needed. And the seasons are a good early access point to bring us back into alignment with the natural rhythms, something that the modern world has totally disconnected us from. We escape to hotter countries when winter descends upon us, instead of using that space to hibernate, to slow down, to reconnect with our nervous system after a busier season, right? So how can we use the seasons and the energies that they present to come back into alignment with ourselves and potentially opening up access to more flow? This is what seasonal syncing in a nutshell is about. So I won't go into what the other seasons invite in. Today is about summer. I will be launching more self-paced workshops around each season. But if we look at summer, and what summer invites in. To briefly introduce the themes that we're going to be looking at today, as I've already mentioned, essentially it's about slowing down as a strategy. Okay, so yes, summer is a social season. It's bustling with a lot of social plans, but the summer heat slows us down, especially if you live in a hot country like mine, Malta. So there's an invitation to use this pause as a sacred space, time to reflect and realign perhaps. There's also an invitation to tend. How can we use the slower period to tend to the things that we've been putting off? Admin, systems, all of the stuff that are foundational to our business and our work. And the last invitation is a permission for joy. All the hard work that we've put into building and birthing our baby into the world deserves spaces for us to enjoy life. It's about using this time to enjoy the fruits of our labor. That's the whole point of actively designing our own lives, isn't it? Otherwise, what's the point? So these are the kind of 3 points that we're going to be working with. And there is a bit of a framework that I have designed into the workshop where I'll be talking a bit about the theme of the invitation that summer invites in. You'll be given space to journal and reflect in your own time. And then I've set an activity on how you can actually practically bring that into your life. So that's the kind of 3-set framework for the workshop. I'm just going to take a sip of water, a lot of talking. So before we get into all of this, as I like to do with my work, which is blending in the kind of mind-body connection into the creativity work and the brand development work, is that I'd like to open this container with a bit of a landing in the space together, a bit of a guided meditation. But before we begin, I want to name something gently. As you're watching this and you're participating in this workshop, a part of you might be feeling that you should be doing something else right now, that allowing yourself this space is a kind of luxury. And there might be a long to-do list somewhere at the back of your mind that's quietly pulling you. Maybe some emails, maybe some admin, maybe some stuff around the house, maybe some stuff for your kids. You might be telling yourself, I could be using this time a bit more productively. This is exactly why we are here. To invite space for slowing down intentionally and becoming comfortable with that. Okay. So I invite you to get comfortable in your chair or wherever in the room that you have, in the space that you're in, where you know you can settle comfortably into that space without needing to hold yourself up. I want you to let your body to be supported. Use any cushions that you need. Uncross anything that is crossed, your legs, your hands, whatever it is. And in your own time, gently close your eyes or lower your gaze. Whatever feels comfortable for you right now. And as you find that comfortable, supported position, let's take a breath in together, in through your nose, and out from your mouth. Sigh out if you need to. We're going to do that again. More time. Now I invite you to take an inhale through your nose and a slow exhale through your mouth. Make sure your exhale is longer than your inhale so that you can start dropping into your body and slowing down your heart rate. Take a couple of rounds in your own pace with a longer exhale from your mouth. And as you finish those rounds, how many rounds you feel called to do, In your own time, allow your breath to fall back into its natural rhythm. Without trying to change it or control it, simply let it be. Now gently bring that to-do list or whatever it was that you felt was pulling at you, bring it to mind. Those things that you're telling yourself you should be doing instead of sitting here in this container. Bring them to mind. Don't push them away. Just let them come and give yourself permission to just sit with them. And as they arrive, I invite you to notice the thoughts that are coming up around those shoulds and those shouldn'ts, or what I need to do and what I need to be doing rather than being exactly where you are right now. What words are coming up? And as you bring attention to those words, I invite you to notice if you feel them anywhere in your body. Perhaps your chest is getting a bit tighter. Your shoulders feel a bit heavier. Your face feels a bit more tense. Maybe your jaw is clenching. Perhaps you might not feel them anywhere in your body, and that's also okay. Just try to kind of give yourself a body scan. And wherever you feel a tension, just notice it. That's the pressure to perform, and your body has been carrying that. If you're not feeling it anywhere in your body, I still invite you to do this with us. If you feel it in your body, we're going to breathe into that space. If you're not, you're just simply going to take deep breaths with us. So let's breathe into that space of tension. And as you exhale, I want to invite you to soften. On the next inhale, we're going to hold. If you feel a tightening specifically in an area of your body, you're going to breathe into that space and you're going to bring tension to that space. If you're not, you're simply going to breathe and you're going to hold. Now, we're all going to hold, right? But if you feel it in a specific area, I'd like you to bring your attention to that area. So let's breathe in together. Tighten and hold your breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as you exhale, feel your body loosening and softening. We're going to repeat that, and I'd like you to bring attention to the contrast between the tension and the letting go, the softening. Breathe in. Hold and tighten for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go. Exhale. One more time. Breathe in. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Exhale. Notice the difference between the tension, and the relaxation. This is the softness that I'm inviting you to enter into this space, into this container. Feel how it is to be here in that softness. Letting go of that should and shouldn't and just being present exactly where you are. Our body already knows how to rest. It knows how to slow down. We've just been overriding it for a very long time, so it's kind of forgotten. We need to remind it. And the invitation is to allow your body to lead in this session. Take one last deep breath in from your nose, out from your mouth, and sigh out if you need to. And in your own time, there's no rush. I gently invite you to come back into the space. A little reminder to take a break at any point that you need. Pause the recording whenever you feel like I'm moving too fast. I will be moving right through and would expect you to pause me at the times when you need to be doing work. Okay, so I'll cue you to pause. Thank you, by the way, for doing that with me. I hope it's given you the time and space you needed to land in the container. Okay, so let's officially begin. So I wanted to give some time to get you to set out some intentions for the workshop, a permission to set a container within the container that's personal to you, whatever that might be. For example, you want to set the intention to give yourself full permission to be here without distraction, or the intention to be open to a new way of seeing rest. The intention to be honest with yourself about wherever it is that you are right now. Whatever intention comes to mind, now is the time to bring out your journal, give me a pause so that you don't feel rushed, and set out whatever intentions come to mind. It might be one, it might be more than one. There's no hard rule. Okay, so once you've set your intentions, let's begin with the first invitation of summer. An invitation to pause. So, as we've already mentioned, the summer heat and lull invites us to slow down, to embrace presence over productivity. But a lot of the time, slowing down comes with a lot of resistance, which is what we're going to talk about. And before I get into the talking, I want to invite some journaling, this is the format of each invitation, okay? We'll move from journaling into explanation, into activity. So here are some 4 prompts that I'd like you to work with. Use as many as you'd like. This is your space. You can use one, you can use all. I would recommend that you use all. The first one is, what comes up for you when you think about slowing down in your work? What do you associate it with? The second one is to feel into the emotions that arise and try to label them. Maybe it's shame, maybe it's fear, maybe it's lack of worth. Can you tap into where they show up in your body? You can go a step further. Label where they show up in your body. Get to know where those feelings are present in your body. Inquire. If you feel like it's too much, step back. It's your space. The next question is, how comfortable are you with the idea of allowing slower periods to be welcomed? And then the last one is there a version of you that already knows how to slow down, and what does she look like? Okay, so again, I invite you to pause this section of the recording so that you can answer these questions in your own time. And when you're ready, you can press play again. So let's go into this concept of slowing down. I'd like to make a very important distinction that slowing down is not about doing nothing and abandoning your work. It is about reframing the guilty feelings that usually come with the idea of slowing down. Now, those guilty feelings are usually driven by narratives like, If I'm not posting or working, people will forget about me. Comparison narratives like everyone else is hustling, if I slow down, I'll fall behind, or she's still posting every day, why am I the one needing a break? Other people seem to manage both, why can't I? Do any of these narratives sound familiar? Or perhaps you have narratives that kind of stem from that same fear or guilt-driven point of view. So let me introduce you to what I call the survival loop. Now, our nervous systems are designed to keep us safe. So when we fall into this kind of loop, our nervous system is basically just doing what it knows best, which is keeping us safe. Now, the issue is that it can't tell the difference between a real threat or a perceived one. Now, the loop, the survival loop, which is what our nervous system is functioning from, this idea of surviving, of keeping us safe, is functioning from this pattern. Our thoughts, which trigger our feelings, which govern our beliefs, which drive our behaviors. So if our thought is, if work is slow, it means I'm not doing enough. It means I'm not doing enough with my days. That's the thought. It's going to trigger the feeling of guiltiness, of guilt and shame. And those feelings are going to govern the belief that maybe I'm not really cut out to be a successful entrepreneur. Now that belief system is going to drive certain behaviors, which might look like pushing yourself to the limit very unproductively, we know why, burnout, to prove your worth. Okay, so let's go through that again. Our thoughts trigger our feelings govern our beliefs drive our behavior. So if the thought is going to be, if work is slow, it means I'm not doing enough, it means that I'm not making the most of my days, it's going to trigger feelings of guilt and shame. And those feelings are going to govern belief systems like, maybe I'm not cut out to be a successful entrepreneur, which is going to drive behavior to push you to the limits to prove your worthiness, which is likely going to lead to burnout and is probably an unproductive behavior. And that's the nervous system spiral, safety spiral, because the behavior of pushing yourself to the limit basically proves the thought. So the thought and behavior is what your nervous system has been conditioned to believe is the safety net, is the safety spiral. The thing about our nervous system is that it doesn't know the difference between real and perceived threat, right? So it is working from the data that has so far been given. So it's basically been fed the information that rest and slowing down is the perceived threat. Does this make sense? So our nervous system has been programmed to believe that slowing down is a threat. I invite you to think about what your predominant narrative is around the idea of slowing down or a slower period in your work. If you want to jot this down, feel free. But I want to move into how we can reframe that narrative. So in reframing that narrative, because it all begins at the thought, this is where it all begins. It triggers our feelings that govern our beliefs, that drive our behavior, and define what safety means to our nervous system. So what if we had to reframe the thought that potentially could trigger different feelings, that could govern different belief systems, that could drive different behaviors and create a different safety spiral for our nervous system? What if we had to reframe that? Let's have a look. So if we had to think, if work is slow right now, it means I have time to catch up on myself and the things I couldn't do in busier periods. They would trigger feelings of ease and presence. And those feelings would govern the belief system of moving with the cycles of fast and slow is what allows me to build sustainably. Rest and slower periods don't hold me back, they fuel me for my busier ones. That belief would drive the behavior where you give yourself permission to move slower, inviting in moments of joy and flow. And so your nervous system is slowly reprogramming to understand that safety is not slowness is not the threat. And that would perpetuate that cycle. The more you give yourself permission to move slower, the more it backs up that thought of slow period means having time to catch up on yourself and the things that you couldn't in busier periods. So what we want to work on is reframing this initial thought. Slowing down is not about doing nothing or abandoning. It's about moving with emotions in a way that is productive for your mind, body, soul, and business. So as you thought about your predominant narrative, I invite you to think about a new narrative. This is the reframe that I have given. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. But this is the reframe that we're working with within this idea of slowing down. We're giving ourselves permission to invite moments that busier moments don't allow in, whether that's in our life, whether that's in our work. And this is what I call the sacred pause. So this is going to be the first activity of the workshop. So I'm going to move through this activity step by step. I'm just going to explain what we're going to be doing overall. So we're going to start off by looking back at your year so far from January to June, and we're going to give you a moment to celebrate what you have actually achieved, what you've learned, and how you've grown. Okay, there's something very powerful when we look at our year retrospectively. We never really give ourselves that time to be like, oh my God, this is actually what I've got done. And actually that's a lot, right? We're constantly moving in whatever's coming next rather than really being in the present moment. So we're going to give time for that. And then we're going to give space to think about what could be left behind. Maybe there are things that we're holding on to, some failures that we didn't quite accept because we've seen them simply as failures. And in letting go, we allow ourselves to fully step into and embrace the next part of the year. And then we're going to give time to reflect on who you want to be over the next 6 months and how you want your business to unfold and how you are being called to step forward. Okay? So the first step is to draw yourself a timeline from January to June. Okay, as you can see an example here. And on the left-hand side of your page, I'd like you to list what you've achieved, learned, and grew. And beneath each month, you can use sticky notes for this, whatever it is that you feel works best for you. I invite you to start thinking about what you did within those months. Don't be shy to list the things that you might have perceived as a failure. Okay? And think about the lessons and the growth that perhaps came out of those instances. It's not just about what we achieved, it's also about what we learned and how we grew from them. And usually it's through failure. So this is your moment to pause. I forgot to mention as well to think about not just things in your work, think about things in your life as well. They all need to be celebrated. Okay? So some examples of achievements and, lessons and stuff. For example, landing a client that you really wanted, launching something that you've been thinking about launching, raising your prices, perhaps saying no to work that wasn't right. That's a massive achievement. Getting through a hard month, perhaps coming out the other side. Maybe some failures around, a launch that didn't quite land, a pitch that went nowhere, collaboration that fell apart. Maybe actually underachieved, also list failures so that you clearly have it there. Some lessons, realizing you'd been undercharging, learning what kind of clients drain you, discovering you work better in the mornings. These are all very valuable lessons. Some examples of growth: setting a boundary you wouldn't have set last year, handling a difficult conversation better than you would have, trusting your instinct over the advice, feeling less need to prove yourself. Cool. So these are all examples. So now I invite you to pause and get brainstorming. So welcome back. I hope that exercise was fruitful, and I hope that it feels good to look back at the first 6 months of your year and the halfway mark of 2026. Now I just want to give you a bit of time to celebrate all of that. The achievements, the failures, the lessons, the growth. Kind of look back and think about what comes up. Do you feel proud? Do you feel like you could have done more? Do you feel like you've done enough? What is it that comes up? And just sit with that. But give yourself permission to celebrate yourself. If you feel the need or the calling to journal anything, please feel free to do so. So, as you look back at your year, I want you to think about perhaps what can be left behind. Are you holding on to something that needs letting go of? Perhaps a failure or a lesson that you can't quite wrap your head around. Look at your map and think about what it is that you're holding on to, what it is that brings some kind of tension. And think about, what needs releasing so that you can fully step into and embrace the second half of your year. What is it that you need in order to help you to release it? Again, pause if you need. And lastly, I would like you to reflect on who you want to be over the next 6 months. From July to December, the next 6 months of 2026, think about who it is that you would like to be, how you want your business to unfold, and how you are being called to step forward. Again, pause and come back when you're ready. Okay, let's move on to the next invitation. An invitation to tend. Now, the quieter periods aren't just for rest and doing nothing. They invite us to hold space for the foundational work that often gets pushed aside when things are busy. So how can we use that quiet energy to focus on tasks that often get pushed down the priority line but carry immense importance? Your accounting or your admin, your back-end organization. These tasks are often a bit tedious and could be seen as boring, but they are foundational to a sustainable and well-supported business. So essentially, quiet periods give permission to create space by tending to tasks that over time become weighted, and they're weighted on our body, mind, and spirit. So all these tasks that we resist throughout the year when things get busier end up taking space on our mind, body, and spirit. They become Okay, so let's move on to the next invitation, an invitation to tend. Okay, so let's move on to the next summer invitation, the invitation to tend. Now, the quieter periods aren't just for rest. They invite us to hold space for the foundational work that often gets pushed aside when things are busy. Okay, so let's move on to the next invitation of summer, which is the invitation to tend. So the quieter periods aren't just for rest. They invite us to hold space for the foundational work that often gets pushed aside when things are busy. How can we use that quiet period, that quiet energy, to focus on tasks that often get pushed down the priority line, but carry immense importance? Your accounting or your admin, your back-end organization, tasks that can often be considered as boring and tedious, but are so foundational to a sustainable and well-supported business. Okay? So all these tasks that we resist throughout the year when things are busier end up taking up so much space on our mind, body, and spirit. They become somewhat blockages that linger on our body. Now, we know we need to get to them, but we end up resisting them, right? Because, they are probably more boring, they are probably tedious, and in busy moments especially seen as very extra. And when we try to approach them, we try to do everything all at once, and we end up in the same place as we started because we get kind of like overwhelmed by these tedious and extra tasks. The truth is, though, for your business, they are foundational. And for your energy, when they're left unattended, they become weighted. That's when they become blockages. So, can we use these slower months to begin tending to them with intention? A little bit every day, spread throughout the summer. So, can you think of an example from your own business where a boring or pushed down task, admin, back-end systems, actually ended up being more valuable than you expected once they finally did? Once you finally got to them? Did it maybe free up something or give you clarity, remove a weight you didn't realize you were carrying? There's a time and place for everything in our business, and a time and place for us to actually tend to these things because they're deeper than we actually think they are. You know, it might just seem like an admin job, but the longer we take to get to it, the more it becomes a thing, right? So we're going to move into the space of connecting for insight. Okay, so I've given you some more journal prompts to begin with. Think of up to 3 tasks that you've been quietly carrying at the back of your mind the ones that never quite make it to the top of the list. The next one is, how does it feel when you think about them? Maybe you feel guilty, maybe you get overwhelmed, maybe relief that they haven't come up yet. The next question is, what has been the cost of putting these things off in your business and in your headspace? And the last one is, what would it feel like to finally clear them? So tap into what it might feel like once you've gotten the job done. Think about what that would open up. Okay, so now's your time to pause me before we can move into the activity. Okay, so activity 2, which is the slow pile. Okay, so again, I'm just going to explain what we're going to do, and then we'll move into the step-by-step process. So we're going to start off by listing out your unattended tasks. I know in the journaling, you've already thought of your top 3. Maybe there's more. Okay, so those things that you've been putting off, you've pushed aside, you've quietly resisted throughout the year, this is your moment to finally give them space. Cool. Then we're going to move on to breaking those tasks down into small manageable action steps. And I've created a template that's going to allow you to do that a bit more systematically. Once we've done that, we're going to allocate and we're going to time box, when you need to be doing each task, so that they don't just become a long list of things you need to do. Okay, we're going to kind of give them realistic time and space of when you think you can actually get them done. I have a template for this, so fret not. So let's start off with the list. Okay, get out your journal and just list everything that comes to mind at this point. See it as a living list, okay? The space that when you're driving in the car, you remember you have something to do, you go back to this list, okay? So your admin, your back end, all the unglamorous but very important work that keeps finding its way to the bottom of the pile. This is the list that you want to get out there. Pause, as usual, and when you're ready, we'll move on to the next step. So in the email that you received, your workshop link, you should also have the link to a Google Sheets template. Now is your time to open it, and I'm going to explain it. Okay, the first step that you want to do is to duplicate it, because you can't edit that template. So you want to duplicate it so that you can edit your own version accordingly, and feel free to make it work for you. This is just a starting template. Okay, so the way that I've built it is that on the right hand side of the template, you want to input your main task, the task that you listed in the first step over here. So that's going to be considered as your main task. And then we're going to move on to this column of action steps. And we're going to begin by mapping out the smaller action steps. Feel free to break them down as small as you need them. And those action steps are small steps that are going to get you closer to your main task. So the example that I gave here is the main task is to build your accounts Excel sheet. Okay? And the first action step is to research different templates. So you're going to take a look at different templates that already exist so that you can be inspired to understand how to build your own framework and template that's going to work for you. Once you do the researching, you're going to start building. The next step is to collect all your receipts. The next step is to input the Q1 expenses. So this is an example of a breakdown of action steps that is required to achieve that main task. Once you've done those two, I invite you to move onto this column, which is about thinking about, when you want to complete that task by. I would do it, let's say, beginning September, mid-September, end September, or beginning July, end July. Kind of give a rough estimate, okay, so that there isn't this hard deadline that might add more pressure. Once you've done that, you can move on to achieve by for the action steps. Okay, so if you know that you want to you want to complete this main task by the end of September, and today is July, end of July, you have basically most of all of August and most of September to do all of these action steps. So allocate them in a way that feels realistic and doable to you. We don't want to make this more daunting. We actually want to make it more accessible. Okay? So give the dates that you feel are realistic to you. Over here you have the status. You have a preset of status that to help you track where you are with that action step. And the way that I've divided them is according to progress. We don't go from started to not started, or not started to started, or complete, okay? I've broken it down into more progress bars because there's something that psychologically helps us when we see something in progress, when we see that something's nearly done, okay? The last one, which is the task status, which is the status represented of the main task, is preset. So this you do not need to change. These are the things that you need to change manually, if you want to use this template, of course. But the main aim of the template is to look at your main task and break down that main task into small, doable action steps. I'm sorry that I'm looking up, but I'm looking up at my biggest screen. I'm going to try my best to keep my eyes on you. So the main aim is to break that main task into small, doable action steps. And then we also want to kind of give time frames to them, because otherwise it will just end up this long list of nothingness, okay? So if you want to use this template, it's there for you to use. Feel free to work on this now, or feel free to work on this later. There is an invitation to work on it now, since we are very much in this container and you might be in the flow of things. Of course, it can end up a living document where you continue adding, but I would recommend that you just get started now that you're in this container. Okay, so also a little reminder to take as many breaks and pauses as you need. I am rolling through just for the sake of the recording, but this is your space, so feel free to take a break if you need to. Okay, so let's move into the last invitation of summer, which is the permission for joy. This is definitely my favorite one. So when we think of summer, we think of longer days, right? I think we kind of all get excited for having later sunsets, and after the shorter days of winter, we're all looking forward to having more hours in the day. So essentially, inherently, it carves out more time for joyous moments. And as much as summer comes with that slowdown, it also comes with that fun, exciting energy. It's a time to say yes to life, but we need to make space for it, especially as business owners, where we don't have those official time off, days of the year that we have that are off. We have to carve them out for ourselves. And we spend the majority of the year working super hard, functioning from a space of doing mode as opposed to being modes. We act as human doings, not human beings. And we act and function from that space of not enough time in the day to get everything I want done, let alone enjoy life. The longer days of summer allow us to do this more presently. We have less of an excuse. We have more hours in the daylight, right? Now, we often equate fun with big, grandiose plans. When running a business, we tend to believe that it comes at the cost of having fun and taking time off. That belief system, which is driven by the idea of having to always be switched on. And that belief system inherently robs us from having fun and enjoying the fruits of that hard work. Now, the truth is that, fun and celebration and joy also live in the small, understated moments. Because when we think that, they're only grandiose, big plans, it's more often than not, we're just going to be averse to them because, I don't have time to have those big, grandiose plans. But what about the small, understated moments? The morning swim before our laptop opens, the long lunch that stretches into the afternoon, the spontaneous yes to something that wasn't in the plan or the routine. This is about letting the hard work pay off, not just in results, but in how you actually live. Not doing life, but being in it. Summer is the invitation to stop moving through your days and start feeling them. So the science a bit around and behind why engaging in fun is good for us. Okay, it releases the feel-good hormones like serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that manages our satisfaction, our optimism, our happiness levels. It reduces cortisol, the hormone that's linked to stress. So by default, it lessens the likelihood of high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and many other diseases. And through the release of those hormones and the reduction of cortisol, it naturally leads to better sleep and to clearer minds and overall sharpness. And through all of that, it also improves the personal relationships, as it's likely that a majority of fun comes hand in hand with connection with others. Through the release of the happy hormone and the reduction of the stress hormone, it also allows us to show up to personal relationships with more clarity. And of course, all of that combined boosts our energy levels. Okay, so this is just the tip of the iceberg of some science behind why engaging in fun is good for us. And in just reading all of these in a nutshell, when we think about, showing up as business owners and how it's all on us, all of these things are gonna feed into the sustainability of us showing up to our business, right? If we rob ourselves from taking time off, from being with friends, from engaging in joy and in fun, we're going to be working from empty. And as we already discovered, working from empty is unproductive. So when we think that by pushing through we're being productive, it's actually counterproductive. So with these figures and with these kind of points of research that are backed up by research, together with our new reframe of embracing the slower periods to work on foundational aspects of our business and work, can we also find room to invite in joy as a way to replenish and refill our cup? As a clear strategic benefit that supports us in showing up to our work with more presence and with more inspiration. So filling our cup so much that we actually stop pushing and instead invite in more flow. When we're working from a space of a full cup, that's when we start to regenerate, right? That's when it becomes self-sustainable because we're not working from empty, we're actually working from a full cup. And that's when we truly become in alignment with ourselves and our work and with the people that we are pulling into our orbit. It's changed my life, I swear. Cool, so we're going to move into the Connect for Insights space for you to journal with 4 journal prompts as usual. So I'd like you to think about what does fun actually look like for you. Not what you think it should look like, but what genuinely lights you up. So it could be, going for a morning swim, going for a walk, meeting a friend for a coffee midway through the week. Think about the small stuff. Think about the big stuff too. Okay? The next one is, when was the last time you did something purely for the joy of it? With no agenda, no productivity attached. The next one, what would it feel like to give yourself full permission to enjoy this summer? Like, really enjoy it. What small everyday moment brings you the most quiet happiness? And how often are you actually allowing it? Could be the coffee in the morning. It could be your movement class throughout the day. Whatever it might be. Think about how much you're actually inviting that into your space. So you can pause before I move on to the activity. So this is the last activity for the session, and it's called the cup filler. Okay, just zoom out for a bit. There we go. So this is your permission slip to want things. Simple things, joyful things, things that have been sitting on the edges of your life, waiting to be invited in. So what we're going to do is to make a love to-do list. Not a to-do list, but a list of things that you love to do. Either things that you wish you would like to do, but you never did. Either things that you're already doing and you know you love them and they fill you up. And those are the things that are kind of quietly filling up your cup to help you to become into this regenerative space. Things you keep saying maybe next time too. Okay, those things that you're like, oh, I'd really love to do that, but maybe next time. Bring them into your love to-do list. Big or small. Okay, it could look like a solo morning at a cafe, a swim, a day trip, whatever that might be. Then we're going to mark them out in your calendar. We're going to allocate time for you to actually get your love to-do list done. As much as we carve out time for a client call, we need to carve out time for this too. That is the beauty of self-employment. Because filling your cup isn't a luxury, it is the work. Okay? So, to move on to the activity. Start out by coming out with this list. I like to write this on my phone so that it can be a bit of a living list. And whenever I'm out and I'm not with my journal, I can just grab my phone and write it down. So there is an invitation to do that, or if you want to keep journaling and then move it onto your phone, that's quite okay. So think about the things that you'd love to do over the coming months, things that you know already fill up your cup, things that you've been wanting to do but never quite did. This is your time to pause me and get to your list. Once you have done that, I invite you to bring out your calendar, whatever you use, whether it's Google Calendar, iCalendar, whatever system that you have for yourself, and think about how you can allocate either all of your love to-do lists, some of your love to-do list, how many you deem possible into your weekly calendar. So for example, I have every Monday morning, I start off with a morning swim by the sea. So I'm out at the sea so I have a calendar block between 8 and 10 that I'm by the sea. And I start my day on a Monday later. I have Wednesday morning, I start my day with a bit of a read, okay, because this is one of my cup fillers. So this is the invitation to literally time block these different love to-do lists throughout your weeks, throughout July is at the end, August and September, and feel free to push it out more. It doesn't need to be isolated just the summer, right? But hopefully this is the beginning of carving out cup fillers throughout your week. I invite you to do this right now. Come up with a system that works for you. And when you're ready, come back into the space for us to close together. Thank you so much for going through that with me. It might have been a lot. I hope you took all the pauses that you needed to take throughout the recording. It's there for you to come back to whenever you need, whenever you want. It is an evergreen offering from my end. And they are just little activities that I have designed to allow you to bring this synchronicity into your life that I have been speaking about. So I hope they were useful. I am open for feedback, so please feel free to reach out at any point. As I opened the container with a meditation, I would like to close the container with a visualization. So when you're ready, I would like you to find a comfortable seat again. Allow your body to settle and feel supported, whether that's lying down on the floor, lying down wherever is accessible to you, whether it's staying on your chair, whatever it is that you need to be supported. And when you feel ready, allow your eyes to close. Take a breath in and out from your mouth. Exhale slowly. And I invite you to imagine yourself at the end of this summer. Picture her, the future version of you. A version who honored the season, who let the heat slow her down, who tended the things she'd been avoiding gently, a little at a time, who said yes to the swim, to the long lunch, and to the spontaneous plan. Notice how she feels in her body. Her shoulders, her breath, her pace. How is this future version of you showing up? She's not feeling like she's fallen behind. She's not scrambling. She's actually really full. She's made the time and created the space for rest, for joy, for the quiet foundational work. She's created the space to fill her cup, and she now has something to give. Creativity has room to move. Inspiration has somewhere to land. She's refueled and has the energy for the busier months ahead, because she didn't spend the whole year running on empty. She became regenerative. Sit with that version of yourself. Bask in her slow. Does she feel lighter? Does she feel more aligned, maybe? Tap into whatever it is she might be feeling. This is what seasonal syncing actually means. Not doing less for the sake of it, but moving with rhythm, so that when it's time to build again, your cup is full and you're ready. Take one more breath in and out from your mouth. Take any movements that your body is feeling called to do right now. Move slowly, move gently. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back to the space. And I invite you to sit back by your screen in your own time. There's really no rush. Before you go, I want to leave you with one small challenge for the week ahead, which is this idea of saying yes to life. Whatever comes your way, the invitation you'd usually decline, the detour you didn't plan, the moment that interrupts your schedule and your routine, I invite you to say yes to it. And then, if you feel called to do it, journal on what it opened up. Perhaps it invited in some inspiration. Perhaps you met an interesting person. Perhaps you had a conversation that shifted something. Perhaps you had an idea arrive when you weren't really looking for it. Because that's what happens when we make space, when we step away from the day-to-day grind. You never quite know what's going to move into it. So yeah, this is just a little invitation for the week to come. This idea of saying yes to life. So thank you so much for being here with me in this container. I really hope it was supportive. As you know, it is recorded and self-paced, so please feel free to invite other people into the space. Send them the link for them to be able to receive it in their inbox just as you did. Just a few words on what I do and how I can support. I alchemize brand development and personal development for purpose-led women in business. Now, you might not see yourself as someone who's in business. You might identify as a creative or a freelancer, whatever it might be. I hold space for women who run their own things and who are running their own things from a space of purpose. And the way that I hold my containers is by alchemizing this idea of business and brand development, whether you're starting out, whether you're already running, alchemizing it with personal development, because I truly believe that the two go hand in hand. We are our own worst or best enemies, or best supporters, right? Our limiting beliefs come in the way of allowing ourselves to truly live in full alignment with the lives and the businesses that we are designing. So working on a coaching level, a life coaching level, is important when it comes to building the lives and the businesses of our dreams. So this is, I sit at the cross section of that. I design seasonality into everything that I do. If you feel called to be supported in any way that you might need, please reach out to me. My door is always open. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy your summer, and I really do invite you to bask in the slow. Big love.